I want to talk to you today about a very important conference of the Brics nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, the original Brics 5, to which another 6 have since been added, and 10 to 20 more countries applying. The existing Brics are meeting in Kazan, Russia. They meet in a different country each time they get together for a Brics summit. Why is it important? It's important because this is now a conference of the most important economic bloc in the world. That is no longer the United States and its major allies, usually called the G7. By the way, the 7 stands for the United States, plus Canada, Japan, Germany, France, Italy, and Britain. Those used to be the dominant players in the world economy. And above all, of course, the United States, which has been dominant among them since the Second World War, when it destroyed pretty much all of the others. Now, the reality is that since the year 2020, the Brics are a larger player in the world economy than the United States. If you add up the Brics, even only just the first 5, you add up their GDP, the total output of goods and services that they achieve each year. In 2020, it became, added up, bigger than that of the G7, the United States plus the other 6 added up. That's a momentous transformation. It means that the center driving dynamic part of the world economy is no longer Europe, North America, and all of that. That has moved on. The dynamic of capitalism, which started in England and then moved to other parts of the world, which started in New England in the United States, Western Hemisphere, and then moved on. You know where it's gone now? To Asia, and it is on the route to going to Latin America and Africa too. This is momentous. It is, for example, more important economically than is being understood or discussed or even admitted by both of our major candidates for president. This is an amazing, lax approach. You know what it looks like? Well, let me change that. You know what it is? It's denial. It's putting your hands in front of your face and hoping that if you don't see it, and you don't talk about it, and you don't admit it, well, then maybe it's not there. Let me give you a second statistic that drives it home. We are in the year 2024. The International Monetary Fund, a creation of the West, of the United States and the G7, which shapes monetary policies around the world. The International Monetary Fund keeps track of how GDP, total output of goods and services, is growing each year. So I decided to show you what I mean by looking at what the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, has to say about rates of growth this year, just to show you that what I'm describing is underway. All right, we'll start with the United States and try to keep that number I'm about to give you in your mind. GDP growth, according to the IMF, for the United States will be 2.8% in 2024, the year that's almost over. We know what it was the first 3 quarters, so we're estimating the fourth quarter to get that number. And that's what the IMF has given us, 2.8%. Let me look at the other G7s that usually drive that part of the world, Japan and Germany. You put them together, you know what the rate of growth is of the two together? 0%. Germany is in recession, below 0, minus. Japan is just above 0. So you put them together and we're really low. 2.8 in the United States, nothing in Japan and Germany, and the others are small. Now I want to go to the Brics. South Africa is like Japan. It's growing, but quite slowly. Brazil has the same growth rate as the United States, 2.8% for 2024. But now we get to the big players in the Brics: Russia, China, and India. So again, let's remember the United States, 2.8%. What is the GDP growth in Russia in 2024? Yeah, Russia, the country fighting the war in Ukraine. Russia GDP growth, according to the IMF, 3.9%. Way more than the United States at 2.8%. Russia, 3.9%. Now let's look at China. There we go, 4.8%. US is 2.8%. China's growing almost twice as fast at 4.8%, which is low for China. And then we come to the winner this year, India, which is growing at 7%, almost 3 times the rate of growth of the United States. Folks, there is no contest anymore. It's over. There is a new major player in the world, and they're having a conference right now that should be the single most important issue on our front pages, on our social media, because this is changing everything. Every country, every business is calculating, whoa, where do we shift our investments? Where do we try to source our inputs? Where do we look for markets in a changing world that has now really reached an inflection point, a big shift? That's going on, whether we admit it or face it or we don't. American empire is over. And we ought to be paying attention so we can try to avoid catastrophe as we decline, because that's what we face. You can go out with agreements that allow everybody to have their chance. We were never the only player, and now we can't even pretend, however desperately we try. The Brics is the agenda. We need to learn. Otherwise, we will stumble into one disaster after another. Ukraine and Israel, Palestine ought to be warning signs of the kinds of mistakes you can make when you think you are what you no longer are.